This is tax collector's warrant for property tax levy to our tax collector.
I move approval.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0.
And I noticed that she anticipated approval. She was in there running them through the postage meter this morning.
Yeah. This is from Robertson Green, our accountants. We're pleased to confirm our understanding of services we are to provide the town of Tuftonboro for the years ending December 31st, 2017, is to do our audits. The fee for these services will be $10,400. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Under discussion, over the years I've been told that every 3 to 5 years you just change auditors. The nice thing about this company here is that it's been done before town meeting instead of after. And the past boards have said, why change something that's working? So,
Well,
I have no problem.
The reason you change is because a different set of eyes, a fresh set of eyes, is never a bad thing when it comes to reviewing the financials. That's not to suggest that we should not use Robertson Green again, but there is validity in changing your auditors from time to time because everybody looks at things a little differently, and so going forward, I think it makes sense to look at other alternatives to Robertson Green. Not because we have any concerns about their performance, but just strictly
just keep
because
people honest as
yeah,
well. I mean,
you want to.
You need to examine the cost, and you can't examine the cost without putting it on the marketplace. So I'm sure they do a wonderful job, but we need to.
What would you like to do for this year?
I think we had a second on your motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Go with Green?
just need a vote.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Today is the 13th, yes it is.
And this is a copy for us.
Yes. Okay, we did library warrant article. Anything we need to discuss on that? It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
All set on that. Next is selectmen's updates.
I'll go. I attended a workshop last Thursday that was hosted by our email provider, First Light, having to do with connectivity, security, and data recovery, which are big things out there in the world today. It was a good review of some things known and perhaps some that were unknown. Based on what the types of things they reviewed, I believe we're in much better shape with our network than we were a year ago. A couple of things that stick in my mind is they talk about, with respect to data security, let me go back to my notes, what they refer to as 3210. That for all of your data, there ought to be 3 copies of it, the one that you're currently working on, and the backups are held on 2 different types of media, and we're doing that currently, right? We're using a cloud backup, and we're also using a local backup. And that one of those medias, one of the backup medias needs to be off-site, and that the backups need to be done in a way such that there are 0 errors at recovery, which speaks to the method that it's backed up and recovered by. And we are still taking media off-site, correct? Just, they talked about, again, vulnerabilities and this ransomware thing that is going on out there. And the point was made by one of the presenters that the only way that you can absolutely guard against ransomware is with a copy of your data that is not connected to the network, because the guys that are out there trying to get into networks, they know that people back their stuff up on the web. They know they back it up locally, but it's the copy that's backed up but not connected to any of the stuff that their little worms and viruses and whatever can't get into. So I thought that was interesting. There was some discussion of what they refer to as a new term to be Internet of Things. And things are, I mentioned the copier, devices that are connected to the internet other than just computers to move data around. So, an internet connected thermostat, for instance, or appliance, all of those things with our computers and computer protocols. Sometimes when you hook other devices up to the network, they add a vulnerability that the regular computer doesn't. So I'm not aware of anything other than the copier that would fall into that category, but certainly something we need to keep an eye on. The greatest vulnerability that users of networks and internet have is to what they refer to as social engineering. Okay, it's the big data breaches that occur because somebody's got an email and has clicked on a link in the email or has responded, and by doing that has essentially connected your system to whatever the bad guys want to get into it. So it just we all know that, but it bears reinforcing, I think, that we need to forever be vigilant about this stuff, and get an email from somebody that you don't know, or that's something that doesn't make sense,
Right.
just get rid of it. So I thought it was a good review, some worthwhile time. The other thing that I will mention is that at last Wednesday's CIP meeting, the CIP committee set the date for their report out, and that is on the 12th of December, which is a regular budget committee meeting. 6:30, is that the time you start? Okay, and presentation will be to the budget committee, to the Board of Selectmen, and to the planning board. In the recent past, there has not been good attendance by the planning board, and I'm hopeful that this year we'll have, with some new faces, there'll be some attendance and engagement in that presentation. They'll be at the townhouse.
Oh, nice.
Be a little crowded in here.
Do they need to use a computer and the fire station has computer facilities? Just a thought, or is that up to them to decide?
I guess I'll ask the question, but in the past, we have used multimedia presentations.
Okay.
It's just been with the report in hand and highlighting the issues in there.
Sounds
And
good.
finally, I will be going to the Municipal Association conference this week, Wednesday and Thursday. I find they always have a number of interesting, thought-provoking sessions, discussions, and I always come away with
No idea.
some good ideas, absolutely.
Can I ask you something about computers? And I don't know if it was touched on. It's my understanding communities like Manchester, when someone sends them an email, there's some type of notification or whatever that says anything that's on this paper is public information. In other words, don't hit send. You know, do it another way if it's confidential. It's parallel in theory to people who call emergency numbers. There's a beep that says, you know, this is being recorded. Did you come across that service? It's the reason I ask. It seems like it would make it a lot easier for us because we're going through and redacting.
Well, my understanding is it doesn't matter what kind of disclaimer you put on the website. It's still incumbent on us before we release email correspondence or other correspondence that we redact private information. Even if we have something that says, hey, you know, this becomes public. I mean, so it's not a bad idea, I guess, to have a disclaimer out there to help people understand that this is, that at least some of the information of what they transmit is going to be, it is a public record and is available for anybody to look at, but those however many items that AG's guidance says are protected, we have to redact to comply.
Thank you for your
Yeah.
vigilance. Anything else?
No,
Do you have anything?
Done. Almost
you
noon.
wish.
It's almost noon.
Yeah.
Last Tuesday, I met in Conway with Ann Getchell, Getchell, followed up on the USDA grant program. Very interesting. The deadline applications are November 17th and December 8th. I don't anticipate anything here, but there's two types of ways of getting money from the USDA. And by the way, Ann came down to, I think you were on the board then, when you were thinking of funding the library. She actually came to the board about 10 years ago and
Yeah.
spoke here. So she's familiar with Tuftonboro. There are grants that pay 35%, and there's some codicils. I said, well, for example, the building that Clay is talking about, if we get Northern Boundaries money for 200,000, can you link two government programs? She says, yes, we do that, have done that in New Hampshire. So what that would be is about $35,000 for that project there. But I'd have Clay follow that up if it's appropriate. There are loans, and right now, if you were to get a loan from them, it would be 3.5% interest, and that's frozen at the date you get it, but there's no prepayment penalty. They fund equipment and construction. She suggested that construction, a lot of towns stay away from, because the architects and the engineers and the builders have to follow to the letter, to the T, the federal guidelines. And some of them find that cumbersome, things have to be done in triplicate and
Well,
stuff
it's more
like
than
that.
data speaking.
Yes.
It
Right.
drives costs, especially in smaller projects.
She shared with me, and it's in the flyer, these are, there's about a dozen towns that, in New Hampshire, that have got money. For example, in Conway, Littleton facility in Lancaster, to replace computer equipment, they got a grant for over $25,000. New Hampshire Broadcasting in Hanover and Littleton got $770,000 to replace towers that would enable communications for fire, police, hospital, transit, and towns, plus public radio and TV. The town of Warner got ground-mounted solar panels to the town of the tune of $43,000. I know they've been talking about something up at the transfer station. We had a meeting last year. And the town of Thornton got a $10,000 grant to purchase software and in-house server that allowed the police department in the town to be connected with the dispatch center, the county dispatch center. The additional software will allow the town to complete the total package needed for the police department to function properly as a professional agency. What I'll do is I'll continue to follow up on this. Maybe something that, my thoughts is that next year, time that I investigated further like we did in Northern Boundaries. The next thing is Libby Park. As Conservation Commission, weather permitting, will be walking at 1 o'clock. I plan on being there. And I don't know if this is other business, but closing policy, I'll continue to work on that for us, just appropriate with the snow here. I already mentioned about Chief Shigori, what an honor that was. It was a good time, it was a great time. That's it for me. Okay, correspondence. Top item is the CIP information for the library. This is from Leanne. Libby Park proposal, be a meeting 1 o'clock on Monday. People are invited to walk it. If they don't do it today, it'll be rescheduled for 10 a.m. on the 17th. The purpose of this meeting will be to review the deed restrictions, tour the site, review the proposal, and discuss what recommendations we might pass on to the selectmen. The option can be to do more research, then continue or refine our discussion at our next meeting. Next is from Pat Tarpey, Moultonborough Bay Grant Agreement. This is the agreement with the watershed management plan.
And that grant was approved by the governor and council last Wednesday. So that money is now available to fund the watershed management plan. And we will need to stand up a committee, temporary committee to work on, work with the contractor, once the contractor is selected.
That's $65,000.
$65,000 of federal grant money to do the study and write the plan. Anybody that has an interest in being on the committee certainly get in contact with somebody here in the office or one of us, and we need to be looking at standing the committee up by, I would say, right after the first of the year.
At one point, several members of the Lang Pond Committee were interested in having it renamed or bumping up to that, so, okay. Then there are other things that don't need our action for normal review. Other business, anybody? Go ahead.
I just have one question in regards to employee health care. And I know you've decided on a company. I was wondering if at the budget committee meeting, when we do that, I'm thinking it will be helpful if we at least, and let me back step a little bit, I'm a firm believer in it's none of our business what employee chooses what, but what is helpful if we know how many family plans, how many individual plans, and billing and that kind of thing.
Do we
Well, I
also?
think we have that information that we worked from. That's certainly appropriate, I believe, for the budget committee to have.
I'm just thinking it might.
Shows a
come together.
number of types of plans
It's
that are
actually
used.
calculated per
Right,
worksheet.
right.
Did we pass or table our decision in our last meeting? I
I thought
forget.
we passed it.
Now, do we have any other work to do as far as the savings account?
We do, yes.
Right, we have to work on the.
And my understanding is that Diane is working with department heads at this point to gather some information, working from records and also with the individuals to try and put together a picture of what we're dealing with.
And when is our next meeting, Karen?
Next Monday,
At 4 o'clock?
9.
9 o'clock? The 20th? Okay. And can that be on the agenda, is it called the savings plan? Is that what we call
No,
it?
it's the health savings account.
Yeah.
And I don't,
Our health reimbursement.
yeah, our health reimbursement account.
HRA, okay.
My mistake.
Any other
So-
business?
And I think it's appropriate to put it on the agenda. I don't know if, and we'll see at that point how far along she is with gathering information. I mean, it's, in my mind, it's important to get the information correct and not, we're not in a time crunch now that it just has to be jammed through.
No, you folks have moved things along very well. So. How many more budgets do we have? Any idea?
I don't know offhand.
Just personnel?
You actually have that one, right?
Yeah.
Is that the one you tabled today?
Well, the personnel is the one that has all the benefits.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay?
So-
So that will be on the agenda for next week.
Well,
Yeah, let's
I'm
go
not sure,
through.
do you have to approve HRA before that? I'm not sure, I'll have to ask.
Yeah, there's gonna be a change in the number of the HRA number, because we increased the deductible, or the maximum out of pocket, I guess that's what we increased.
Any other business before we go to non-public?
We have non-public today?
Have to redo these.
Put your glasses back on. You're not done yet.
All right.
Thank you all.
I move we go into non-public, per RSA 91A3, Roman 2,
That's an L.
parent L,
Yeah.
for consideration of legal advice.
I'll second.
Roll call. Wood, yes.
Marcus, yes.
I'll be yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.